Daylight savings is the worst. It's almost dark and it's only 5 o'clock. How am I supposed to do anything outside? If you're anything like me, chances are you don't want to be spending like half a mortgage on newer diesels nowadays. They can be up to like $90,000. That's crazy. That's a lot of money. These trucks are still out here. These older trucks, these older diesels. So this begs the question, are older diesels still a good buy? I'm definitely one of the most unbiased people when it comes to diesel trucks, or trucks in general. I love, Cummins, Duramax, Powerstroke. I think they're all great. They all have their pros and cons. Some of them are a little better than others. Some of them excel in other areas. I'm mostly going to be talking about the late 90s, early 2000s diesels. So that's going to be your 5.9 Cummins, your 7.3 Powerstroke, and your 6.6, well, Chevy doesn't really know how to count any more than 6.6 Duramax. When I was in my search for an older truck, I had a very open mind. I test drove all three of the brands, and spoiler alert, this is what I got. But that's not because I only wanted to get this truck. I test drove a couple older Dodges. I couldn't even find a Chevy that was under $10,000, even though they had like 250,000 miles. But this truck fit into my price range. It's clean, it's stock, it's reliable, and it's mine. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We'll break it down by brand. First off, Dodge. From 1989 to 2003, Dodge has been putting the Cummins diesel engine in their trucks, with the first generation being the 12-valve up until 1998 and a half, to 1998 to 2003 being the 24-valve. These engines are pretty highly coveted, as you will see in the asking price, but for good reason, because they're known to go for almost 1 million miles. But as for the transmissions, that's a different story. All joking aside, this can be said for Fords as well. It all comes down to personal maintenance, and not being an idiot. Pros and cons of the Cummins. Pro. It's arguably the best diesel engine ever made. Even so that Ford was putting them in some of their heavier duty trucks back in the day. They're very simple to work on. With them being an inline 6, everything's at the top, easy for you to access. They're very easy to make power, which could also be a con because young kids like to buy them, soup them up, race them, break them, you know how it goes. Cons. They are very expensive, even when they're 20 plus years old. Sellers will always be, oh, it's got a Cummins in it. I'm gonna sell it for $26,000. I know what I have. Automatic transmissions are very weak. Unless you find one with a manual transmissions are always a weak spot in these trucks. Another con, as I mentioned before, the bodies tend to rust out and fall apart. As with the body, the interior is also not the best quality, which you will see in some of the dashes that are in these trucks, as they are just brittle and they will fall apart in no time. All in all, you can't really go wrong with the Cummins. Just make sure you read the seller right, and if it's a kid who doesn't seem like he's taking very good care of it, I'd steer away. If the body's falling apart, which seems to be common with these trucks, I'd look for another truck. But you're safe knowing that the engine will probably last for a very long time. Ford. The 7.3 Powerstroke was put into the Ford F-250s and F-350s from 1994 and a half to 2003 as well. These engines, like the Cummins, are known to be very reliable and to last a very long time if the proper maintenance is done. You'll find this engine in the two different body styles of the Fords. First being the old body style, or OBS, which I have, and the Super Duties, the newer body style. Pros and cons of the Powerstroke. They're bulletproof if they're left stock, and they are very abundant. They're everywhere, and they're also very reliable. Cons. Like the Cummins, the transmissions in these trucks are also very weak, unless you find a manual transmission. They're also lacking power compared to the other two trucks. And lastly, a lot of these trucks are highly abused A lot of them are used for heavy-duty farm work and industrial work, so it shows on the bodies. Chevy. Honestly, if I was able to find one of these trucks for under $10,000 that didn't have 500,000 miles on it, I would have got one. These are very nice, very comfortable, very powerful trucks. Not a lot of bad can be said for these trucks. There's a reason why country singers are always singing about Chevys and old school Chevys. It's not just because they're reliable, but it's because they look good, they're comfortable, they get the job done, they're American. But same could be said for the other two brands. Pros and cons. Pros. Like I said before, they're very powerful. A lot of these trucks are used as race trucks, but so are some of the Cummins. They're very reliable. The transmissions are stout. Unlike the other two brands, the transmissions in these trucks, the Allisons, are very durable, very reliable, and some even switch them into the Fords and Dodges because of their strength. Cons. A lot of these trucks have front-end suspension problems. I have never seen a Chevy Silverado that hasn't had ball joints break. They are also extremely expensive. If you thought that the Cummins was expensive, the Duramax will blow you out of the water. The other thing is, in these early model LB7s, the injectors are a very big problem, and usually a deal breaker if they haven't been changed if you're looking for one. And the last con is, these are the race trucks. These are just like the Cummins, kids will be buying these, souping them up, rolling coal, causing havoc, and breaking the trucks. So look out for that when you're looking for one of these trucks. So now that you know what to look for when buying an older diesel, why did I get this one? Let's go take a look and see. The first reason I bought this truck is obviously for the engine. As I said before, this truck has been nothing but reliable to me, and that's purely because it's stock. I don't plan to change anything about that except for maybe an intake and a downpipe, but that's it. Another reason why I bought this truck is because of the sound. What it is about these motors, but I could literally just sit in here and listen to it all day long. It just sounds so mechanical and like raw. Maybe I'm just weird, but I could seriously sit in here all day long and just listen to this truck idle. Another reason why is this truck just looks good, man. It must be the boxiness to it, but I think this truck is timeless. It looks great. Every time I see these trucks on the road, I just love the way they look. And lastly, one of the main reasons I bought this truck is because this is a truck to me. Newer trucks nowadays just feel like elevated fancy cars. But this is a truck. It's got big comfy seats, it rides like a brick, and it doesn't get the best gas mileage. But you know what? That's okay. This truck does everything I want it to do and more. Could I have bought a gas engine? Sure I could have. I also could have bought a Honda Civic instead of my Subaru. But that's not what it's about. It's about driving something that makes you smile. That when you leave and look back at it, you just appreciate what you have. And if you need to tow a house, in case of an emergency, you can. So then, that brings us back to the original question. Are older diesels a good buy?
Duh.
Of course they are. Time hasn't done anything bad to these trucks except for rust. If anything, time has helped improve these trucks with new technology. So absolutely these trucks are still worth it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe if you like the video, and please like it so others know that I'm making kind of decent stuff. See you next time.